Today's quick dive is about personal perceptions and bias in supervision and performance reviews. By the end of this short video, you should be able to understand and explain how bias affects the performance review process. It's important to be consistent in one's approach to performance reviews. Personal perceptions and biases can sometimes influence how supervisors rate an employee's performance. Often, supervisors are unaware that these biases even exist. It's important for supervisors to be aware of potential biases, understand them, and take steps to reduce them. There are 6 types of biases to be aware of. The first is that of leniency. Leniency is the tendency to evaluate all employees as exemplary, using inflated ratings rather than true assessments of performance. It's also important to note that inflated ratings as a compensation tool is not their intended use. Another type of bias is central tendency, which is the tendency to evaluate every employee as meets expectations, regardless of differences in performance. Strictness is a bias in which there is tendency to rate all employees at the marginal or low end of the scale and be overly critical of performance. The fourth type of bias to be aware of is that of contrast effects. This is tendency for the supervisor to evaluate an employee relative to other employees rather than on the planned job duties, responsibilities, goals, and development needs. The first impression effect is the tendency for a supervisor to make an initial favorable or unfavorable judgment about someone and then ignore subsequent information that does not support this impression. The last type of bias to be aware of is the similar to me effect. That is the tendency to more favorably judge those perceived as similar to the supervisor. Bias can seriously undermine the value of the performance review process. Supervisors should work to eliminate them. There are some simple questions supervisors can ask themselves in order to avoid bias. For example, am I basing my rating on documentation of my observations, or am I making judgment based on my perceptions? Am I looking at each of this employee's accomplishments and behaviors separately, or have I generalized about their performance? Have I looked at the whole scope of work for the year and their behaviors over time, or have I generalized according to my perceptions of them? Have I rated this employee on their actual accomplishments and behaviors, or have I rated them compared to other employees? Have I recognized any biases I may have so I don't let them influence my judgments? Avoiding biases is another reason to engage in the year-long performance management process. Documenting and recording achievements and challenges allows supervisors to look back and remind themselves of performance highlights, ultimately improving the accuracy of their reviews. For more information on performance management at Auburn or any of our HRD courses, contact us at autrain@auburn.edu or aub.ie/human resources.